very welcome to the Overlap Rugby podcast. I'm Shane, that's Daragh.
Hello.
This is episode number 70, and it's quarter-final time in the World Cup. We are going to be looking back on the pool stages just in a brief farewell segment to those we've lost before kind of focusing the show on the upcoming knockout rugby that's actually due this weekend now, and there's some really juicy games in there.
There are. I mean, the pool stage was saved.
Yeah.
Saved it was by an awesome game between Japan and Scotland that Japan thoroughly deserved.
Yeah.
And executed a game plan of just being a better rugby team than Scotland
So
flawlessly.
It's a really good game plan.
And they nailed it and knocked the Scots out.
Yeah.
And we have the hosts in the quarterfinal, as it should be. And providing wonderful colour. They have been phenomenal, and they're up against South Africa. We'll be previewing that a little later on, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. You may notice our set has changed. We were presented with this thanks to Kevin Joyce and Paul Joyce who made it up. Kevin Joyce, who provided the actual massive blow-up version of it.
No, Paul did that as
well.
Paul
did that as well? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. It was just like Kevin who's ferried it over, but thanks to both. And yes, we've managed to squeeze him in. He's going to be overseeing events as he is trying to guide us past the massive hurdle of the All Blacks.
Yep.
So it feels only fitting to have him here overseeing things. As well, if you are new here and enjoy, please do like and subscribe and leave a comment down below as well. Ring that little bell as well, because we do chop this up into shorter videos that we'll be uploading throughout the week. So if you want to know when they are, then ring that bell.
Absolutely. Yeah. Comments very important. We do love the chat, and subs as well. It's always nice to get more people on board.
Exactly. You can get good conversations going and discussions below. So I suppose without any more ado at all, we will get into it. Because there are quite a few teams that have taken their final game, or not, as the case may be, in this World Cup.
We are going to say our farewell to the sides we've lost this weekend. Yeah. 12 teams have gone home.
Yeah.
8 remain, and 12 we have to say farewell to.
Yeah.
And I guess the only fair way to do that is to go pool by pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose we'll start with Pool A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pool A, the bottom team of Pool A was unfortunately Russia, who the Russian Bears,
yes,
who put up a much stronger showing than we had anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Gadjiv at 7 was one of the stories of the tournament for me. He at one stage had the most turnovers in the tournament. The team added things. Artemiev as captain was so honest and humble.
Yeah.
They just made themselves as difficult as possible for their opponents to play against, which was all they really could do. Having been parachuted into the tournament and trying to play a little bit of rugby in the warm-ups, and it wasn't going well.
No,
so
it was not. Yes.
They tightened up, made themselves as tough to beat as possible, and gave Japan a little bit of a scare on opening day, and caused frustrated Ireland in a 35-0 defeat, but still that was frustrating enough,
definitely,
from an Irish perspective.
Ultimately kind of ran it out of steam by the end and got blitzed by the Scots. But
they did.
But yeah, definitely a creditable showing from Russia. And also in that pool we had Samoa propping up just above bottom, didn't finish bottom, did manage to get their win against Russia, but definitely brought a lot of physicality, as they are wont to do, sometimes borderline physicality, which was kind of illustrative in this tournament as well. But they have some glorious players. It is just a bit of a shame that behind the scenes it seems to be a bit of a basket case, probably more than ever, and that they couldn't really string anything kind of coherent together in time for the tournament. Doesn't help that they were in what turned out to be one of the more competitive pools in the whole competition that went down to the wire with 3 quality teams, as it turns out.
They didn't help themselves with their discipline, though, did they?
No. So it's one of those, another case of probably just slightly squandered potential. Certainly, like, Samoa is always a team with massive potential, and we saw glimpses of that. You saw the way they put it up to Japan for a time. They challenged Scotland for a little while, but that was not a great game either. No, it was just Samoa definitely been better in the past, but they have all the tools there. They just need to get it right, and hopefully they'll be back at next World Cup better than this one.
Ulupano Seateni's career is one that will follow with a lot of interest.
Definitely,
but for the time being, farewell to them. And then to round up the Pool A exiteers, we have Scotland.
Yeah.
Scotland. They tried.
They did.
I suppose.
They tried a few times. Nearly got the highest winning margin.
I'd tell you, Willem Nel at tight head has been one of the stories of the season.
Absolutely awesome.
I still love Finn Russell. I think he is a wonderful offensive hustle. but he didn't have much to work with here, to be honest with you. It was a bit of a disappointing outing for the Tier 1 side.
Yeah.
Exiting at the pool stage is never part of the plan
for
those in the top tier.
A
And
few key players kind of underperformed as well. And your McAnally's, who had a great season, even Stewie Hogg, who's been so seminal to them.
Stuart Hogg not looking as dangerous as he has done. The Hogg Seymour thing, it's probably they've just been too sure of their jerseys for too long, that back three.
Yeah.
Like they were explosive and brilliant 3 years ago, and then there's just been no question of dropping them ever since.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get anything else lost. I think when Hamish Watson went down, you all had a feeling that
could have been their bolt.
This is it, that they're done now. And so it really proved they did put the Samoans and the Russians away honourably, and they fought really hard against Japan. They fought back against what were just
players like Richie, who wouldn't have been there but for the Watson thing, did actually step up and have a great game, but it wasn't enough, and it was a don't argue performance from Japan, and it was sayonara Scotland.
They were sent homeward to think again. Unfortunately for them. And they will have to restart, and we will see them again, hopefully stronger and better and ready to fight in the next World Cup. But for now, farewell to the Scots, our Celtic brethren.
Indeed, the first of the Celts to fall, unfortunately. But that does wrap up Pool A, because the other two managed to escape that pool. And moving on to Pool B, and the team propping up the bottom, I believe, on points difference, is it? That Canada are in the rear. Did manage to get that draw on account of the game that against Namibia. That was actually a game we were looking forward to. Didn't go ahead, but ultimately, we were talking throughout the podcast over the last few weeks that they are probably the weakest team in this tournament. Their showings were not very unspectacular on the pitch. Didn't really have a lot to go off at all. Were very uncreative, rather uninspired. Even players like DTH van der Merwe, who have been excellent in years gone by, was looking very, very poor in that outfit. And I think the best thing that has come of it was great. Shout out to them for they were going somewhat viral during the week, because the Canada team were hitting the streets and cleaning up after some of the damage in Typhoon Hagibis. They were going house to house and helping to clean up. The Canadians are always great value in a tournament, but we are hopeful that with the MLR and with the Toronto kind of franchise now, Arrows, that they can get a bit more professionalism.
Canada's a strong rugby nation. Yeah, it's a bigger rugby nation and a better rugby nation than this team deserves.
Certainly than it showed this tournament.
Sweep away the badness of this campaign. Maybe get rid of Kingsley Jones, shake up the coaching staff. With the success of the Toronto Arrows and the MLR. I think it's not too optimistic to say that their best days aren't behind them, that they will come back and be better and stronger and will qualify and be better at the next World Cup. But for them, it is farewell for now. Namibia finished second last in that pool. I'm a little gutted for Namibia. They looked a whole lot better in this tournament. Damien Stevens was great.
Yes.
Yankees didn't get the send-off that he wanted. They were bulling for their first win against Canada, and they looked right to get it. They scored some glorious tries against Italy in that opening day.
They did. Yeah.
They put it up to the All Blacks for 30 minutes.
Scored 3 tries, or three times against the All Blacks, I should say. Took their 3-pointers, but it's true, they showed enough hustle that they kind of deserved that game. It's a shame that they were so rigid on the rules, because that is a game of all the ones that were cancelled. You could have played that on Friday next week. You could have played it today, because neither of these teams are going anywhere else other than home. They're not going to the quarters, so it is just a shame for Namibia that they didn't get the chance to get that win on the board that they were probably good value for this tournament.
I think so, and unfortunately for them, they just don't get too many competitive matches in the in-betweeny times, so the only real solution to that is to become undeniable and to keep working hard and getting better, and it looks like they're doing that in part, and hopefully they'll get support from their South African brothers as well, and that the rest of Africa will rise to a higher standard around them as well, and they'll get good games against the likes of Zimbabwe or Kenya or Uganda.
That's hopefully the future's bright for rugby in that part of the world, and I kind of believe it is. I really do, and I think there was enough in that Namibia showing to think that there's definitely positivity and there's definitely progress going on in all of Africa. So that was great. But we'll move on to Italy. There were a lot of unlucky stories in this, because Italy are another side that we feel bad to say farewell without having them had their fair shake against the All Blacks. Granted, the likely outcome from that would have been a shellacking, same as most teams that go up against the All Blacks, but I think they'd done enough to show that they were worth that chance. They comfortably put Namibia and Canada away. They didn't do themselves any favours against the Springboks, probably in reaction to the pressure, but a crazy bit of play that yielded a deserved red card, and possibly even 2 could have been given, and then that ended the contest. And they never got a chance then to go out against the All Blacks. So it's disappointing for people like Sergio Parise, Leonardo Geraldini as well. Didn't get their proper send-offs. Neither did Conor O'Shea, really, from his head coach role. So that's a bit of a sour taste, but ultimately, like, when they look back, when the dust settles, they'll be kind of quietly happy with what they did, because I don't think that we've ever seen an Italy side put the other two tier 2 sides in their pool away quite as emphatically and quite as confidently as they did this time. They've definitely grown, and they're a team on the rise, and it just didn't really work. Like, even if they had played that game against the All Blacks, they were going to lose it. We were saying that it was just, they were much better than the 2 teams below them and much worse than the 2 above them. So even with all the progress in the 4 years in between, didn't really have a chance to show that.
They score some tries, they have a dynamic back row, and hopefully the future is bright with the 2 clubs doing better and better every year over there. Yeah, and hopefully more
the under-20s as well. They're doing better across the board. So
more heads to come in and get them to an even higher level. Yeah, I respect Italy, and unfortunate that they didn't get to end like that. But Sergio Parise apparently has not retired from international rugby. Is the latest.
He ain't going nowhere.
He gave his Leonardo DiCaprio speech. Yeah. So we will perhaps see more of him in Test rugby in the years to come. But farewell to Giraldini, who's an absolute legend in the game as well.
True that.
And Italy, unfortunately, we must say goodbye for 2019. Yeah. Moving on then, that is Pool B. The other 2 hardly escaped, waltzed into the quarterfinals in that one.
They did, rather, yeah.
Pool C, the bottom team was the USA Eagles. Gary Gould's men, they were a bit of a disappointment. I mean, this is a country that we assume has a bright future, but it's difficult to look at this campaign as anything other than just unmitigated failure. 0 points. A sort of a synopsis of the frustrations with Tier 2 rugby, with their defence getting better and better and their fitness getting better and better, but their offence against Tier 1 defence is not able to get a thing off. Yeah. Just a less than elite kicking game, and a less than elite carry game, and a less than elite set piece game, and a very less than elite passing game, and ultimately there was just nothing. They couldn't get a thing off. Yeah. And they didn't quite rise to the occasion, in the sense that, like by proxy, Tonga, who we'll touch on in a moment, did. They lost that game to Tonga because they were just going through the motions, going through their systems as they'd done throughout it had been enough to win a lot of Tier 2 games. Yeah. Their mole systems and everything else, but they didn't have that World Cup surge that teams need to have, just being at the right emotional pitch and throwing their bodies around. It was all very formulaic and systems oriented, and when the systems weren't that robust or strong, it was just a flat picture, and Joe Taufete'e didn't get any tries, and it's a shame. Didn't
really happen for the US, which is definitely a shame. They're only 2 years into their MLR kind of project. I think with 6 years under their belt, they'll definitely be a better team for it come next time. But I'm sure World Rugby were probably disappointed that they didn't get a US win on the board either.
What hurt them as well was the time zone. Yeah. It didn't permeate even. It didn't even pinch into the US market. No, they're not even. I follow a decent amount of sports heads over there, journalists and broadcasters, and not a one of them was aware, apart from Tom Brady. Nobody seems to be aware that the World Cup is going on at all. Yeah,
that's a shame.
So that is a shame. That's just the time zone. The fact that all the games are going on overnight over there. Yeah, which definitely just subconsciously has an effect.
Definitely,
the nation isn't really behind you at all. Yeah, they don't really know
the nation is asleep at home.
Indeed.
Yes, and that's kind of it was reflected in some of the low energy kind of performances, which is not what you associate with the US. Normally, they would be a passionate bunch who would come with the fight and with the physicality, and they definitely brought bits of that, but not enough, and it didn't really happen. But moving on then to Tonga, who by contrast brought physicality and passion for days, and very nearly did it again against the French, and that was a wonderful and welcome contest in the context of the pooled stages, where there were on balance overall too many blowouts between Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tonga we're booking that trend in that French game, and that really is a World Cup classic of a fixture now all of a sudden, and it's great to see. They're always good value, as you rightly say. The strongest of the Islander war dances we feel is Tonga's.
Yes,
it's a very very scary little ferocious sight, and they're such big men that they're always great value at a World Cup, and they were here again. And I'm delighted for them that they got that win against the US, because I think all that we said about the US was true, and those lessons needed to be learned, and maybe they would have been brushed under the rug if they'd managed to nick that win against Tonga, but they didn't, and they didn't deserve it. And it was because
really from the point that they went, like, they had a rough time against England trying to play a power game against a much more powerful team.
Yeah.
And then they went 28-0 down against Argentina. But from that point, they came back against Argentina, scored 2 tries, should have had a third, but for a Lavanini, should have been a yellow card, and maybe if he had been given his yellow card,
he would have received a ban that would have saved him from getting himself red carded the next time. Maybe
we'll talk about them in a moment. But from Tonga's perspective, they put it up to Argentina. Then they scared the bejesus out of France. Then they damn near they did beat the US comfortably, and with a bonus point. I mean, they turned from nowhere again at a World Cup.
Yeah, they looked absolutely nowhere at the end of the PNC.
Physical,
as well,
attractive and energetic rugby, and Vaianu at fullback was definitely the heart and soul of much of their attacking play.
Sure,
but it was just from nowhere. It was great to see.
Always great to see, and actually I think all the Pacific Island teams were worth their value.
Yeah, after a slow start for all of them, they all added a lot, which is great to see. Samoans least so, but the Tongans and the Fijians certainly, and fair play to Tonga. We love you at World Cups. You're a great side. You always add value, so fair play.
And fare thee well. And so I suppose moving on then.
Yes, Argentina. No tries for me, Argentina.
Hard to spin this in any way positively. As Irish rugby fans, we're very familiar with unmitigated failure at World Cups, and this was definitely an example of that. They got it all wrong, and they are going home for it.
I mean, they didn't bring the right guys. They didn't bring the right philosophy. They didn't attack well enough. Ledesma, coach, was a little bit too emotional.
Like Brad Thorne's Reds, just kind of taking all the heart and soul out of the team and playing a fundamentals but fundamentally flawed kind of game where they're not actually as strong or I don't know. The emphasis was all wrong, and then the dropping of Sanchez felt just petulant and
especially
reactionary.
From the 23. Not bringing Diaz Benicia for the inevitable Sanchez lack of form, and instead Erdipageta, who was never at the level. It's a shame now that's possibly the end of Creevy at World Cups. That's possibly the end of Sanchez at World Cups. It's probably the end of Tuchel.
Tuchel is the one of the main ones. My gripe, because I think he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a fullback, and we've seen for the French what Medard has provided, for Ireland what Rob Kearney provides in terms of that surety. Tuchel would be a similar figure in that Argentinian dressing room, and despite Buffelli's form, which is undeniable, I'd be having him on the wing, like not getting him out of the team. Their wingers weren't showing enough form to justify leaving Tuchel out of the team entirely. And meanwhile, in the kind of midweek games against the tier 2 sides, he was lighting it up. It was all just a bit wrong from start to finish.
That said, there are Argentina 15s playing in all kinds of mad competitions and lighting it up.
Jaguares 15 dominating the second tier of the Curry Cup. We have,
but unallowed to be promoted.
Yes.
But yes, the depth of Argentinian rugby is powerful. They're going to get a new coaching ticket in, whether it's the lad from the Quesada, the lad from the Jaguares, or the current Uruguayan coach whose name escapes me, but he's an Argentinian guy as well. And they are very organised. Whoever it is, I suspect Argentinian rugby will be back and stronger than ever. The grassroots there is very strong. But for now, you don't get to march to a semi-final. You don't get to break Irish hearts. Unfortunately, this time you have to go home.
And that's it.
And no sense crying for me about it.
No, the puns are there. So fare thee well, Argentina. And moving on to Pool D, we have another South American wonder in Uruguay, who really lost Uruguay.
Oh, Uruguay. Sean Maloney
loving Uruguay. Los Teros were awesome, and win over Fiji is an all-timer in terms of World Cups. I expect it to be turning up, little compilation in rugby gold format kind of thing. We'll be looking back on it and with great esteem. It was absolutely fantastic and a wonderful game of rugby, but also they kind of displayed a calm and a real kind of understanding of their game and a real kind of maturity in how they played. They displayed that through all their games, even when they were outmatched, which was in all of their games, and we were fearful for them going in because it was such a pool. Like to have Georgia and Fiji be your tier 2 opposition, as well as then Wales and Australia tier 1. It was always a mammoth task. It wasn't
just the fact that they beat Fiji. It was the fact that in their Georgia game aside, it was the fact that in their 2 tier 1 games they defended masterfully.
Yeah,
they were outmatched, and they never gave away a soft try. I don't think the whole tournament they gave away a soft try. I mean, they were a little slighter in the contact than most of the top sides. They don't play at that level very often, but they always maintained their shape. They always made their tackles to the last.
Yeah,
and you had to work to score against them. And sometimes in those sweaty conditions, it was frustrating. Australia got frustrated by them. Wales got frustrated by them.
Fiji damn sure got frustrated by them.
Fiji completely lost the head against them.
Indeed.
Because they just kept calm and kept making their tackles and forced you to find the score.
Yeah.
And they never gave you a soft score, and it worked for them. And then when they got the ball, Arata at 9 and Freitas on the wing.
Cat in the 13 channel. Awesome stuff. Yeah.
What's Rwanda's name?
Silva on the other wing.
He was very good as well.
Yeah.
So very exciting team. And
definitely.
Apparently one of of all the tier 2 sides, they're set to have the least drop off in terms of players retiring and everything else.
There you go. Quite a young squad.
And it means that they're probably going to be quite well set and ready to go come America's Rugby Championship next year, and then all of a sudden you're developing that winning culture.
This is it.
So I'm excited about Uruguayan rugby. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, and it'll be absolutely fantastic if it were. We make South America an absolute powerhouse, which we already have one in Argentina, but Uruguay can rise to it, then who knows?
They rescued the Americans north and south in this tournament.
Yeah. And they also created Pool D. Pool D in Rugby World Cup 2019 is my favourite pool in recent memory, purely because every team got a win on the board, and that hasn't happened since the very first World Cup.
Can't be understated. Great games.
Terrific games.
Uruguay, Fiji, Wales, Fiji,
Australia, Fiji. Pretty much every
Wales, Australia.
Every Fiji game is a wonderful game, but Wales, Australia too. Yeah, this was a wonderful pool, and Uruguay, great value in it. Absolute congratulations on the win, and we'll see you again in 4 years.
Yes. That's a happy exit for Uruguay. Less so for our dear friends, the men who have a special place in my heart. The giant men of Georgia.
Yes.
Who got to impose themselves physically in the way that they like to do against the Uruguayans.
They did.
But ultimately, some very sloppy defending at times. An older structure and less dangerous,
but also less flexible. They didn't adjust on the fly. Some of those defensive errors that just recurred 3 times in a row against your tier 1, like no adjustment.
It was all very slow, and it was all. I'm convinced that their sort of game plan with a little bit of tweaking. I don't think they need to overhaul like they sort of tried to do against Fiji and go mad. I think their game plan with a little bit of tweaking and just being a little bit more technical. Could work, but they do have a lot to learn and a lot to ponder on.
Encouraged by Sharakadze's words post saying that they needed to find more tries.
Sharakadze was very honest in his batch after the Australia game, which wrapped up their time. He was saying, it's just frustrating, but you have to be able to score tries to win games, and there's definitely truth to that. But they just have to be a little more technical. They're big men, but letting Pocock, who hasn't been getting many steals off, get a one-handed steal off while you're trying to clear out his body, when literally just go for the hand.
Yeah.
They just need to be a little bit smarter in terms of how they're using their giant bodies.
Yeah.
And they will be at the right level, but hopefully they will take learnings. Milton Hague is moving on. New brains are coming in. The grassroots in Georgia is there to stay.
Very strong.
They do love the game.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll get some more games against tier 1 sides. They'll take those learnings and come back stronger.
Be able to impose that Georgian game on teams.
I think a strong Georgia is a good thing for world rugby, and
100%.
I still think down the line that we are going to see one that can compete.
Yeah, I would hope so. And I think fairly well then to Milton Hague and Mamuka Gorgodze, legends of the game.
Absolute legends.
I'm not sure if Sharakadze will still be there. I hope so.
Sharakadze, I think, for the time being.
Anyway.
Maybe not the 4-year cycle, you don't know.
But yeah, some great players and obviously in Gorgodze, but also some young prospects there who are. Yeah, there's enough excitement. Sosa Mariasvili, shout out, he was very good all tournament.
Yeah,
there's definitely positives for Georgia.
Scrum half.
Apresiza for sure was a really good find.
Yeah.
They could use it. They could use an elite 10 come 4 years time.
Yeah,
that would
maybe
be lovely.
Tato will grow into one.
Maybe you never
Tato,
know.
Ebsendadze.
But yeah, so in the meantime, farewell to the Lelos. They're great value as always. And moving on to another absolute like stellar World Cup, basically Rugby World Cup gold that is Fiji. They are absolutely wonderful to watch. Every game they were involved in, even when they're losing, they're amazing to watch. Semi Radradra, one of the stories of the tournament, like he was untackleable. He didn't seem to lose a contact at any point against anyone.
Josh Tuasova quietly on the other wing being monstrous as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they were insane. Persetta Yato also had a fantastic
wonderful tournament. Yeah,
they're a really great team. They're wonderful to watch. They have all the skills genuinely of the top end of Tier 1 rugby. When they hit their attacking straps, they are an awesome combination of speed and vision and angle running and offloading, but also physicality. And they become, as Wales will tell you, like Jay, become impossible to defend against when they hit their straps. What they're missing is what Wales had to beat them, which is just that little bit of nous, that little bit of understanding the big moments in big games, where to be, when not to offload, when to get down the pitch. And they're just missing that little bit of that ability to switch it off for a moment and change what you're doing and then switch it back on when you need to.
Sure.
The Fijians are always on, and it's great. It adds great colour, but just to get to the top level, which I think they're capable of, they're such raw, talented athletes. They just need that little
bit more to work on. Certainly, even though all three of their halfbacks are excellent, none of them are particularly excellent box kickers, and that did come back to haunt them at the very end. Ben Volavola is their only 10, and when he's playing badly, there's no option to replace him. So it's just, there are little gaps there that are costing them. But ultimately they're always up there because their players are just too damn good at rugby for them to be anywhere else. And when a World Cup comes round, the Pacific Islanders are going to be up for it, and it's a different prospect altogether. So I'm optimistic for Fiji's chances in the future, and they won't be going anywhere.
Farewell to them. They added a lot. Shame we won't be seeing you anymore, but you had a colourful and actually pretty great Rugby World Cup.
This is true. And secured their qualification, which is crucial in that pool as well.
Yes.
We were saying how tough that would be in Pool D, and it was Fiji who just about got it despite the Uruguay defeat.
So that was it. Those are the 12 who have departed, but there are 8 who remain. Yes, indeed. We have 4 quarterfinals in a super weekend of. This is,
as is always,
this
the
is
case.
Arguably the most meaty weekend that you get in a 4-year cycle. The World Cup quarterfinals, 4 games between elite sides, going at it. Semi-final on the line, real business end of the tournament, knockout stages, great teams up against great teams. No more massive blowouts. This is everything on the line, and this is both exciting and petrifying.
Yes, at the same time.
We are going to go through them. Of course we are. We are going to start with the first one. Saturday morning, 8:15 a.m. Irish time in Oita Stadium, refereed by the late, great, still alive, Jerome Garces.
Jerome Garces, yes.
Jerome Garces, French referee, maker of some controversy, is going to be taking charge of England versus Australia, the Rose versus the Wallabies. This is a match that it's fair to say, has some World Cup history.
It's absolutely dripping in history.
This is World Cup. This is your World Cup game. It's one of the great World Cup fixtures. Just to give you the highlights, 6 previous meetings, 3 wins each. Australia beat England in their hosting World Cup final in 1991. England repaid the favour and beat Australia in the World Cup final in Sydney in 2003.
Awesome.
England, having fallen off a cliff after 2003 and going into the 2007 World Cup with less than no form, getting hammered 36-0 in their pool by South Africa, limped to a quarter-final stage and took on a much-fancied Wallabies side who were set to get their revenge and beat them in a shocker. And then Australia, typical of this fixture, blew them away and knocked them out of their own World Cup in their pool last time out. Only hosting side ever to be knocked out in the pool. The Wallabies, of course, did that to England. It is just dripping full of
history and colour.
History and colour and surprise wins. Who knows what's going to happen in this one. But the fans on colour will be awesome. The Australians have the most travelling supporters in Japan. England quite loud themselves with their chariots.
White on gold pops rather nicely in the crowd.
Decent bit of history between the two nations as well. Quite a sporting rivalry across so many sports.
Indeed,
and as you say, Eddie Jones against Michael Cheika won't be even the least bit contentious.
No, this is it.
So we've all of that and a rugby match to be played. I mean, yeah, this is box office Rugby World Cup knockout stages stuff.
Yeah. And it's a good one to have as the very first of our quarterfinals, to be honest. Yeah. And I suppose in our breakdown now, we're going to just look into how both sides are going to approach this game and how it might look. We're going to start with the Wallabies, and really it's like, how are they going to have to defend this England team? Because England, we didn't get to see them probably at their full, what they would have wanted from the French game that was cancelled was to get their full team out, get a bit of momentum, try and reach the top of their form. Haven't really been tested yet at this World Cup. They had 2 Tier 2 games they coped with very well, and then blew away a 14-man Argentina. So the Wallabies will definitely be a step up for England. But how do the Wallabies stop that power game? Because England thus far this year have looked pretty damn irresistible when they get that going.
It's not even just the power game. It's that combination of the power game with the speed of the breakdown ball, with the crisp passing of both Farrell and Ford. Ford's form has become so undeniable that he's quietened all the Cipriani talk.
Yeah.
And he's going to be probably in starting at 10 with Farrell at 12, more than likely. And their crisp passing game and sharp kicking game as well. They can just move teams around. They run like quite a close to a Saracen shape these days. It's very modern, very sophisticated. Dummy runners everywhere.
Screens
usually
everywhere.
with the screen, like the 2 or 3 screen pods going in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Just giving the distributors an option between a really class big carrier or a really speedy wide option.
Yeah.
And it's very, very simple, but they always have those options. And usually, especially if it's Farrell making the calls, they make the right one, and it becomes just an absolute nightmare to defend against. If you're thinking, geez, they're going to flick it out the back here, and they have numbers on us, they're going to go wide, it's going to be a Johnny May try, I better drift off. And oh no, it's gone short to Manu Tuolagi, who's now running at my inside shoulder because I drifted off him.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the floor looking like an idiot.
Indeed.
And he's in for a try.
It happens
England's
a lot.
offense is great.
Yeah.
It's really sharp and really well done, and from a defensive point of view for the Wallabies, a really, really tough challenge.
Yeah.
I think stopping them at source is what Wales did.
Yeah.
In terms of how they stopped them in the Six Nations, and it's a big ask.
Yeah.
For the Wallabies.
Big ask of players like Rodda and Arnold, who've looked good so far, but have also in big games gone by when they meet elite operators.
It's literally only then. They look great in every game until they meet the Springboks or the All Blacks. The Brodie Retallick Sam Whitelock combination tends to break them. And so too does the Etzebeth Mostert or whoever.
Yeah,
the bot blocks that face
Cruz
them.
Itoji is pretty awesome too. You know, like those English locks are no mugs at all, and this is a huge task. And then even closer to source, you have Sinclair and CO. Awesome battle as well in the tight.
Phenomenal battle.
Scrum time. What's going to happen?
Scrum time is for me almost the most interesting aspect of this game. Now there's a high degree of chance that the scrum doesn't become a determining factor in the game. But what it is just a complete curiosity, because both of these sides they're two of the form scrums in the world. They're also two of the most aggressive scrums in the world. Yeah. Both sides are trying to bully each other. Scotty CO is tearing everybody a new one at scrum time these days. Not to mention Alatoa at the tight head's no mug. And Taniela Tupou, if they select him over Kepu, which they should, he comes on. He's an absolute unit as well. So I mean, the Wallaby scrum is just not to be trifled.
It's one of the most improved, probably the most improved in the top tier of scrummaging.
Because Scott CO has become one of the best, if not the best, loose-headed scrummager out there. But he's up against Kyle Sinclair, who is also just a complete bull in the scrum, who's super dynamic. And both of them, they never scrum for parity. They try to kill each other. Yeah. And it's just it's got it's got a really curious look to it, because if somebody gets on top, if somebody gets on the right side of the referee, or if somebody starts mushing somebody, it'll be a completely new feeling for the guy who's on the receiving end of it. Yeah. And that could be determinative if someone gets on top.
Definitely. Well, if CO's to get on top of Sinclair, I expect a Sinclair yellow card down the line if he's getting bullied at scrum time.
But likewise, if Sinclair gets on top of CO and then he starts chatting to him, and all of a sudden the Wallabies are floundering.
Yeah, because the Wallabies are guilty of letting the ref get to them as well, and this is definitely an area where they can. But then in that pack as well, the back row battle is awesome. And if you want to stop England at source in terms of the Wallabies' defence, then Pocock and Hooper are going to have a massive game at slowing them down. First, you do need your locks hitting them properly and stopping that momentum. Yeah. But you need someone in there to slow it up and ideally steal it, because the Wallabies will look to move it off turnover ball. They always look to find the space, find the tries, but you need to be turning over that ball. And to be honest, Hooper's had an absolutely wonderful World Cup so far. Pocock hasn't quite got up to the pace and level that he's been at.
He hasn't at all. I mean, if you want to judge him by Pocock standards,
this is the point.
He hasn't been there at all.
Well, he's still being an elite operator by the standards that's right now.
Yeah.
But we're talking Pocock standards, and that's what it's going to take, because Curry and Underhill may be more new on the scene than Pocock, but they are elite back row operators, and then Billy Vunipola as well, should he be fit enough to start, is an awesome operator as well. It's a big ask for those Wallabies.
So it's got to be tackles, it's got to be disruption of the ball and the contact. They need every wily play in the book to stop what is a very sharp England offence.
Yeah.
But they have a sharp offence of their own. When they get the ball, they can do damage.
Yeah.
They have Beale and O'Connor as classy distributors, and they have Karevi and Corabetti in the wide channels as monster strike runners who can get through holes and finish scores if they're put into space. Karevi sometimes doesn't even need the space; he just needs a man
smash
to
over.
Smash.
He'll be targeting inside of that Tuolagi channel.
Should stay away from.
Should at one point those two collide, that'll be one of the more forceful collisions of the World Cup.
We don't need an earthquake, because that could trigger a tsunami.
Yes,
and then you could have a whole other weather issue.
It's true.
So maybe they should just stay away from each other.
Run it forward. Karevi is absolutely one of the form centres coming into the World Cup. He's been lighting it up and has kindled a very lovely balanced combination with James O'Connor, who O'Connor is precisely what they were missing for so many years.
Yes,
an outside, a 13 in other words, a guy who can challenge the outside with his footwork, with his pace, but also link with the outside with his distribution. And it takes a little bit of that pressure off Curtly Beale, who was providing pretty much the sole provider of that, which led to them being a bit too deep overall, a bit too tame. But when with all of those guys firing, their offense can be lethal.
That said, how England defend is pretty serious.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the Wallabies stand deep, but I'm curious to see if they can stand deep enough to get outside this English blitz.
Yeah.
England tend not to commit at the breakdown on D. They fan out, they come up into your face, and if the Wallabies are thinking about going wide, chances are they get caught at 12, especially with, and not to be too harsh here, but with a passenger at 10, no matter who they select, let's be honest. They probably have the weakest 10 of anyone left in the 8, whoever they select.
That's probably true.
Yeah. But they have other distributors. They have avenues for success in the attack, but like the ball tends to get out a little slower than it should, which is why I think actually the key distribution player for the Wallaby attack is actually Will Genia.
It is,
because that actually is what you need to do to England to discipline their defence a little bit. They're just going to come flying out. Wait till you see if Australia go wide off the first 2 phases. They're going to come up at an unbelievable speed.
Yeah.
Like if they're trying to do one of those little forward pod, whip it back to 10s, I suspect it'll be like Michael Hooper catches it, gets smashed.
Yeah.
It's not going farther. Like England, especially at the start of games, come flying out of the blocks.
Yeah.
So actually what you need to do is test them around the fringes.
Yeah.
Little Genia probing runs, little Genia
Karevi off Genia.
Come
slightly narrower.
Long flat passes, short balls, mix it up around the fringes and keep them honest and keep them in there, and then you can go wide. Classic earn the right to go wide stuff, but it's super important to slow down that English defence, and that's why I wouldn't recommend picking Nick White now.
I
would recommend
too slow.
Yeah.
For a Wallabies an offence which needs to purr and needs to really move that English pack around if they're to have their way with them.
Not to mention Genia's kicking exit game has been outstanding.
Yeah, some of the best box kicks of the tournament come from Genia.
Deep touch finders from base of the ruck, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
And let's not be doing contestables, because at the end of the day you're Australian. You kicked Israel Folau out of your team, so that's
true. That's a point we didn't talk on defence. Curtly Beale has been awesome going forward, but there are question marks about his fielding of the high ball and managing of the backfield. England kick a lot of ball, and they kick it very, very well. They have Elliot Daly's left boot out wide in the back line. They have, if they go with Ford Farrell, 2 excellent right pegs close to the breakdown as well as competent box kicking exits from either of their scrum halves. So they have many avenues for success, and it's actually the area of Johnny May's game that he's improved most this year is under the high ball too. So it would be tough for the Wallabies challenging them there, but they definitely need to get on the other side of the ball. They need to be minding that backfield cautiously. But in terms of offense
for England, they just need to move the ball. They need to move the ball slickly. I think the key to breaking the Wallabies down is just to get those hard runners getting over the gain line. Once you do that and resource the breakdown well, because the Wallabies' best defensive weapon is their poach game. If England can resource the breakdown well and just on the short options make a bit of yards, have some of their forwards, the likes of Cruz, the likes of Itoje, the likes of Billy V, put a little bit of footwork on the ball, maybe get an offload game going, and then if they can generate that really quick ball that they like, they become just an irresistible, very difficult to stop side, and the Wallaby defence won't be able to stand
it's
up
been
to it.
patchy at times throughout this whole 4-year cycle, and they've shown signs of that in this World Cup as well. Like there are tries to be scored against the Wallabies. They score a fair few themselves, and that's why they're normally competitive in any game for the most part. But England will want to just get that steam. We want to get established on as much as we want, or the Aussies will want Rodda and Coleman to step up a few levels to compete with those lads. England will be hoping for the opposite, that they can assert dominance in that pack and in that tight five and just get around the corner really quickly and generate that quick ball, play Billy Vunipola into the game by getting him over the gain line and getting his hands free, and then Tuilagi crashing in between those two centres will open up space everywhere for the likes of Farrell to pick.
For England, on the other side of the ball as well, it's just about getting in their faces, winning those contacts and breaking the Wallabies a little bit, like the Boks do.
Yes.
Only without the loss of focus that lets them back into the game, which can happen to England as well.
It can.
So they have
That's a question mark about England. Like the Wallabies showed that great comeback spirit against Wales, having gone behind. Great second half from them. England have been a better first half side than a second half side.
Not to mention they're a European team in Oita,
which is another intangible.
A sweatbox.
Oita, obviously closed roof stadium. Humidity's probably going to be a bit high. It's going to be muggy, and the Wallabies are definitely better conditioned to cope with that than the English. Yeah. We haven't actually. With all of the kind of the Northern Hemisphere nations, certainly particularly the kind of Ireland and Britain and Ireland kind of nations, we've seen all of them struggle with the conditions at times. We saw Wales for that period against the Wallabies actually go a bit absent and look really fatigued. Yeah. England haven't really been tested.
Tonga, I thought they looked really ropey, just handling wise. They slowed down. They slowed right down. That was in the sweatbox. Might have been in the same place.
Might have been in the same place.
Again, in the Tonga game, the opening game, they definitely looked to be struggling with them a bit, and they want to be in a sharper place.
Yeah, we saw obviously with Scotland, we saw it against Ireland. With Ireland, we saw it against Japan. It's been a factor for these teams that the conditions really aren't what they're used to. It's different from a Six Nations game, and as such, the pictures are different. So that's definitely an intangible that the Wallabies have. Yeah.
From the defence point of view, it's about getting in their faces, it's about smashing them. They got to be mindful of a couple of things. The Aussie maul has actually been really great.
This is true.
I'm curious to see if Itoji's one of the great playmakers of the game, as well as just being a workhorse. He combines those two greatly. Yeah. One of the great plays he has in him is the shutting down of the maul.
And so too's Cruz. Actually, that's one of the strongest areas of Cruz' game, and I think it's one of the reasons he's in there in that team is he is great at spoiling mauls. The Sarries boys in general are great at stuffing that set piece, where the Brumbies and then Wallabies have been using that set piece as a go-to to find tries.
So shutting down that maul is huge, and you shouldn't need to tell them after 4 years ago, but you got to keep an eye out for that inside ball.
This is it. They'll be looking for it.
Do love to throw the blind wingers down the blind channels in England.
You see Corabete slicing through.
Curry and Underhill need to be marking that space.
Absolutely,
no chance of getting Corabete. If Corabete gets through on an inside ball, you haven't done your homework.
Well, alternatively, if he's in on an inside ball and it's Sinclair covering that space where it should be Curry or Underhill, that'll be a kind of a structures thing that we saw it with Georgia. They got it wrong where it was front row forwards protecting that space and it was exploited. You'd hope that England don't do the same, and that they actually have their two very formidable sevens, great groundhogs and tacklers. They need to be minding that and watching them all day, because the Wallabies do have a lot of distributors. Obviously, it's not that their main distributor isn't through 10 purely because their elite operators aren't in the 10 jersey, but what they do have is really three other distributors in that backline in Genia, Beale and O'Connor. So couple that with a decent 10 and suddenly you have 4 distributing options, and you will move the point of contact.
And they absolutely will do that. They'll look to get an offloading game going. They'll look to drive up the pace themselves, exposing them a little bit in the wide channels. But England's power game and their really smart kicking game and sharp offence could prove too much for the Wallabies, and that's certainly what I think.
It's definitely where I do have England as slight favourites. For other reasons, things like history as well. You were saying rightly that the last thing that happened in World Cup history is that Australia dumped them unceremoniously out of their home World Cup. It would be in keeping with that historical record for England to come back and get one over on them.
I think so, because it's kind of similar to 2007, isn't it? When the Wallabies had been beaten by England in their own World Cup in a final this time as opposed to a pool, but still in the final, and then England played the Wallabies in that one, and it was like Wallabies were the much better side, and everyone was like, the Wallabies are going to get one over on them this time after last one's horror show, and then England inexplicably won again. And there's that history too. This is a mad fixture. Using history to call this is crazy.
It is crazy. To be honest. What I'm looking at is that on balance, I think England are the stronger of the teams, the better of the teams.
That is the compelling factor for me is that England might just be a better rugby team.
Yeah, but that may not matter. You know,
penalties are important.
Penalties are important.
Touch on penalties. England need to keep their heads.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that stands between England and glory. Really, is their heads.
Yeah.
They need to keep them screwed
on. They need to also demonstrate a capacity to wrestle momentum back, which is something that's been a consistent niggle for this Eddie Jones England side, is that they can blitz teams for 20 minutes and go into a near insurmountable lead and then completely switch off and not be able to adjust on the fly and get themselves back into it. And the Wallabies, by contrast, have shown a capacity to leak loads of tries but then get a streaky run going of 10 minutes.
The
where
Wallabies
they grab
are
tries.
Momentum side as well, so if the Wallabies get the momentum, a little like Scotland in the Calcutta Cup, it could just keep happening and keep happening. England will need to be a little tougher than that, and just a little smarter than that in terms of when the game's getting away from you. They need to identify when the moment isn't with them and stop trying to force it.
Yeah.
Then just kick deep and play territory and have things settle down.
Yeah.
Until they can wrestle some momentum back. But so those are learnings that you would hope that they've picked up. But they are a big, strong, accurate, well coached, talented, quick Owen Farrell, Johnny Mayfield.
Wonderful team.
That I think will win.
I suspect you're right there, but do feel free to disagree with us in the comments below if you're a Wallaby fan.
Yes.
But it's going to be a great contest anyway.
What do you
as
think,
always.
Joe?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's too busy thinking about the All Blacks.
This is it. He's going through All Black rucking technique for the last 10 years. And moving on then, I suppose, to that game, we'll use Joe to segue in. We have to follow that up on Saturday, All Blacks v Ireland, which is a game that has come to life, a fixture that's come to life really during Joe Schmidt's tenure in terms of being a real competitive fixture. One of the highlights of any rugby calendar when it does fall. They've all been competitive games. The score currently stands at 2-2 in the context of Joe's tenure there. It's been 2 apiece. This will be a decider for it. It's happening at on 11:14 or 11:15 Irish time on Saturday in Tokyo Stadium, which is an open stadium, no roof on that.
Yep.
It's meant to be about 20 degrees with some showers, so a little cooler than we've had in the pool stages so far.
Yep.
And it's going to be ref by the great Nigel Owens, which is awesome. It's a game with tremendous colour, absolutely. Like down to the contrasting fans between black and green in the crowd. It'll look fantastic. It'll sound fantastic. They have serious history. Obviously, the All Blacks edge it entirely in terms of World Cup pedigree and overall record. But what's intriguing is that this iteration of Ireland under Joe Schmidt have kind of got a handle on this All Black fixture and not let it daunt them as much as it has in generations hence, where they just were never up to the races, and the All Blacks conversely never really respecting them. This is a different story.
No, there's no question that the All Blacks respect them a little more. And in fact, it was a frustration of Ireland's before we beat them, was that like no matter what our ulterior form was, we could go through a whole year beating everybody except the All Blacks. They always seem to just have a sort of a dismissive attitude towards Ireland, like we'll beat Ireland. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But we're Six Nations champions, and we beat South Africa and Australia. We'll beat Ireland. And sure enough, they did.
Yes.
But nowadays, actually, it's gone the other way because we've put it up to them, and because we've pushed them in a few games and beat them twice. That now, even despite ulterior form and a sloppy Six Nations and a defeat to Japan, it's like, Ireland are a serious team.
Yeah,
they take seriously sides who can compete against them.
Yeah.
So twice in this World Cup cycle, Ireland have beaten the All Blacks,
but also twice they've lost to them, which is
a factor. From Ireland's point of view, I think you have to take a look at those 2 wins and just sort of take what you can out of them. So let's say just nearly 12 months ago, last November, they got the 16-9 win with the one Jacob Stockdale try. Mm-hmm. They held the rugby ball. They frustrated the All Blacks. They beat them up physically.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
It definitely was.
It was a very, very good performance. Without Murray at scrum half.
Yeah.
With quite a bit of Sexton at 10.
Yeah.
But mostly just with a dogged forward pack that held the ball and held the ball and held the ball. But the All Blacks, when they had the ball, ran into our big forward pack.
Yeah.
They were slow, they were cumbersome. Even when they got into our 22, they played a very non-All Black kind of game. Mm-hmm. And we were concerned. We were concerned heading into this tournament, pre-Bledisloe 2, really, that the All Black attack was a bit blunt, that wasn't quite delivering. They had gone to this sort of power-oriented game that didn't suit them. Mm-hmm. And essentially since then, since the end of Bledisloe 1, they're magnificent performance in Bledisloe 2, their 92-0 win against Tonga, then their their game against the Springboks, where they were being monstered, and then old school All Black fashion. Oh, chance try.
Yep.
Oh, chance try.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes the game. Bye, Springboks. Enjoy second place. And the Springboks are like, yeah, okay, we'll take Japan and Wales. You can have Ireland and England.
Yeah, this is true.
But that notwithstanding, the All Blacks have found something serious in their attack, and that changes things a little bit, because even if Ireland had put together that same dogged performance,
it might look a little bit like that Springbok
game. It might look
game.
a little bit like that Springbok game, where they're dominating most of the game, but then an error came, and if you watch that game back, there were the few Irish errors, and all of a sudden an Irish error could mean an All Black try.
Yeah.
So from Ireland's perspective, I think that the more useful game to look at is actually from Chicago,
where everything went superlatively right,
Ireland
and they played
beat them.
total rugby.
Ireland scored 5 tries. The All Blacks came back at them and scored 4 tries. It was a sensational game of rugby, but it was just an example of explosive, accurate, ambitious football from talented Irish players who did play with a load of physicality and did get over the gain line, but also played with their heads. They executed lovely little attacking shapes all off Sexton.
Yes.
Sexton is the orchestrator of the Irish choir.
Yes.
But he makes it sing, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
But they've also played heads of footy. Conor Murray noticed Aaron Smith is wandering away from the breakdown and might just run in and score a try.
Yeah.
They played a fundamental good box kicking game that put those guys under pressure. The All Blacks don't necessarily adjust to what their opposition is going to do anyway.
Yeah. And
Steve Hansen kind of laughs at that. So there isn't actually any harm in employing an accurate box kicking game, because Severis isn't necessarily brilliant in the air, and neither is George Bridge, and it's worth pressuring those guys there, because it just doesn't suit their eye to have to receive a load of good box kicks against competitive wingers. They tend to often lose them.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ireland need to play exit with contestables, and then attack. Not holding the ball, scoring tries, I think fundamentally is the way to beat this All Black team.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that Ireland are going to have to ponder on.
It is definitely, and I wonder if that's what we'll see. You may see them try and hold the ball, and then well, this is what for that to work, you need to be front runners from minute one and hold it the whole game. I still suspect, should the All Blacks steal a few points early on and go ahead, if they get more than a score ahead, I see it very difficult for the Irish to get back into it. Conversely, though, if we are like 14 points clear of the All Blacks, there's still no guarantee there. That's not safety. Like, the All Blacks will come storming back, and their bench has great impact these days, with TJ coming off it and adding a bit of zip and a bit of fire as well. He's certainly more combative than Smith, who's already gets them purring from minute one, but then when TJ comes on, he adds some layer of physicality to that role as well. I just love the balance to their team. I think Barrett Moanga is danger. It really is, and I think it's particularly dangerous for Ireland, because like most Six Nations teams, we prefer to defend narrow and blitz narrow and shut teams down before it gets to the outside channels. And against this team, you're facing Barrett when it's in the outside channels with elite finishers on the other side of him. So it's a very tough challenge. Big ask of guys like Robbie Henshaw and whomever else slots in beside him, be it Gary Ringrose or Chris Farrell in the centres.
Personally, I would go for Chris Farrell, but I think either way, you are going to have sort of 2 shooters in the midfield. Yeah, and their performance is going to be crucial. Can they get out of the line? Can they spoil?
Can they read the game well enough to stop it? Yeah, because the alternative, when the blitz goes wrong, and if Moanga picks the right option, be it a chip through or a flip pass over the top to find Barrett, that is devastating. If that unpicks that Ireland defence, I see very little to stop them, especially because out now pace wise, if it's a 1v1 and it's Barrett versus Rob Kearney, Kearney's not winning that. However, if it's an aerial contest, maybe he is. So it's going to be about emphasis on who's winning those micro moments. There are also some fantastic matchups in the pack, can't be overlooked. Like, the All Blacks are probably going to go. They're definitely bringing Sevilla. They may opt for Kane for a forager just to go for turnover balls,
or Frizzell
alternatively to get that 6, 7, 8 balance. Kieran Reid, we know, will be there. Ritalik's probably going to be back. He would have been back had they played that game against Italy. Hasn't been yet, but he's obviously back training. Those were the reports, so we expect him and Whitelock to rekindle that absolute Rolls Royce of a partnership in the second row against rather a young partnership in Henderson and Ryan. but an exciting physical one as well. It's a great battle. It's a really elite level battle.
Yeah, I tell you, like, James Ryan hasn't quite hit the level this World Cup, and Ireland are going to need him. Like, when James Ryan hits his straps, he is a Toje-esque in his behaviour. He goes for 80 minutes, makes loads of plays, is alarmingly physical, and wins an alarming number of contacts.
He normally appears at around the 60-minute mark to be just all the more dominant because he's the guy with the engine on the pitch. Like, when 60 minutes passes and you can see a few forwards blowing, he's not.
They're going to need to see a James Ryan that hasn't yet shown up at this World Cup. A dominant man of the match grabbing James Ryan, tackling, carrying,
22 tackles and 14 carries. Yeah, that kind of stuff, you know.
Slowing the All Blacks down.
Yeah.
It's crucial. If Ireland can slow the All Blacks down, it makes it all the more likely that they can
stop them.
Stymie them
a
little bit. And then when they have the ball, it's important that they, obviously Sexton is everything, loads of little subtle moves off Sexton, play with a bit of ambition, but play with the heads up as well. If there's space to kick it into, kick it deep, play a bit of territory. It's got to be that Sexton and Murray combination has to go well. The tight five has to go well. One of the things that has frustrated me about Ireland this year, frankly, is just the fact that it seems like the front row are on a leash. There's just a little too much, you know, structural running and scrumming for parity and just sticking to a system of pods and, you know, I'm going to be here and then I'm going to hit this ruck and then 2 phases later I'm going to hit that ruck and then I'm going to carry, and it needs to be a bit more explosive. I mean, I have a lot of respect and faith for Irish props. Tadhg Furlong and Cian Healy, I think on their day are some of the best scrummagers in the world, and we've seen, granted at a lower level in a Leinster jersey, just how much they can enjoy the challenge that gets given to them by the Leinster coaching staff of breaking an opposition at scrum time. And I think when they hit their straps, they are up there, if not the best, and I think most talented.
Matchup wise, it's one of the few areas where I think we could boast dominance if we go for it in this area. Joe Moody versus Tadhg Furlong is a matchup I fancy, to be honest.
And likewise on the other end, if it's Napol Alala, tighthead, Cian Healy would have a go. But they aren't having a go. Ireland haven't been having a go all year. They have been locking it down and scrumming for parity, and they haven't, like, it's literally both sides acting like under pressure tight heads, just locking the scrum down. And then they got caught by Japan, who actually were putting a bit of heft on it. And it was totally naive, and it doesn't play to the strengths of those two guys who do need to be unshackled a little bit. So I'd like to see Ireland be much more aggressive on defence, at the scrum, at the line out. It's got to be a Herculean effort. It's what it takes to beat the All Blacks. The All Blacks are the All Blacks.
They have experienced this team of playing close to a perfect game and getting the result. They have some experience of playing close to a perfect game and not getting a result against the All Blacks. They have memories of being competitive, though, which is key. They have no fear in the same way that other Irish teams have had of the All Blacks coming and making an absolute show of them. They do know that they can get plays off. They do know they can.
They tend to raise their game.
They do raise their game. That's one thing as well. Like, with the quarterfinal being what it is to an Irish rugby fan and player, presumably it is a massive weight that they haven't got past it yet. In that kind of regard for motivation, it's kind of positive that it's the All Blacks, like an undeniable mammoth task. We're not favourites going in, so that means the emotional pitch is likely to be there. It's much harder, like when you see Ireland after a big performance, to get to the quarterfinals and they're playing a Wales or an Argentina, a team that they can trick themselves into thinking we should be all right here. This is a favourable draw for us. That kind of mentality does bad things, whereas going in against the All Blacks, you know that nothing shy of pretty much a perfect game is going to get it done.
So you'd expect a very high level performance, but that doesn't necessarily deliver the win against this All Black team, who are just full of really, really skilled operators. And like for Ireland, you know, the playbook in terms of beating the All Blacks is all this stuff we've talked about. Go at them at the scrum, go at them at the line out maul, be perfect, be really aggressive in defence, move the ball in attack, play off Johnny, etc., etc. And as Steve Hansen often jokes, our plan is just let the boys play. You know?
Right.
And that it works. I mean, defensively they'll have to be up to the challenge, because if Ireland do hit their straps and do hit that pitch, they become a bloody physical side. They run really aggressive, hard carrying lines, and then they can generate quick ball, and you can trick yourself into thinking, oh, they're a side they can't really attack, they're blunt and bludgeoning, and then all of a sudden they get quick ball, and Murray and Sexton are picking really clever passes and sharp plays and exposing your weaknesses. So the All Blacks do need to be at a fever pitch. They need the likes of Retallick, if he's there, or in his absence Scott Barrett and Sam Whitelock, to be making those big tackles, to not give Ireland an inch up front, and then they'll think once we haven't given them an inch, they'll kick it to us. If we can control that ball, then we have the ball.
Yeah.
Then it's party time.
They'll want to see Ardy Sevilla rampaging. He's always game on defence as well, but on offence for the All Blacks as well. I think an area of supremacy for them, much as I love Rory Best, is their 2-2s are phenomenal.
God,
and them in the wide channels against our kind of blitz is probably a recipe I see for unlocking it. It's done it before for the TJ Pierre try in that Chicago game.
That's right.
Dane Cole's getting the hand free and getting the inside ball, being so devastating because all of their halfbacks, like all of them, not just the 3 in the squad, but the 10 behind them, run that tracking line absolutely expertly and grab those tries. And either Dane Coles or Cody Taylor are elite distributors in the wide channels and physical carriers themselves. Yeah. So there's definitely an area that is worrying.
They have so many X Factor players, not least of which Bowden Barrett at fullback. And Bowden Barrett, like people were talking about him as the best 10 in the world. I still don't know whether he is or he isn't, but I'm pretty convinced he's the best fullback in the world. Yeah. His skill set suits that position so well.
I know of no one who covers grass finding kicks from 10s as well as he does.
He's so quick.
It seems like it's the right option and it's executed well, but then Barrett is there with 5 seconds to clear it because he's so quick to get over there. Like it's nuts.
He's so quick, and as 15, he has just the luxury to sometimes be a distributor, to slot in, sometimes play little kicks in behind. Sometimes
very
put other
much
people
play
in space,
a heads up kind of game.
But you're also a 15, which means you can also be pushed out to that wide channel, and you can be a strike runner.
Which is where he really is.
Strike runner. He may be their best distributor, but he's also their best strike runner. You put him in space, and he is lethal. He is, for me, the best rugby player in the world.
Yeah,
and
probably total rugby player.
Rugby player is exactly right. And a very, very scary prospect that is nigh on undefendable.
Well, this is it. Well, I have written down here, just from Ireland's point of view, stop Barrett. I'm not fully sure how, but do it, because I don't know. but it's got to be done. Stop him. One thing
Get Bundy back on and hit him in the head.
No. But one thing that can be done is challenge Mo'unga in terms of his time and space. I would hope that they delegate that role to Josh van der Fleer, who is actually an out-and-out
Josh leads
7.
the defensive line very well.
He does, but he's also like a very technical 7 and on a technical level, and he's very fast as well. If he gets in his face, into that face, and then you have Henshaw shutting out the outside option, maybe daring him to chip that little speculative kick in, you kind of want to rock that and make them unsure of themselves, because I think they are, like, not so much in the squad, but certainly the New Zealand rugby watching public are a bit unconvinced about the Barrett Mo'unga axis and kind of want to see Barrett at 10. And if you can challenge Mo'unga enough to flap him, then maybe the seeds of that can be planted, and that's definitely an avenue for Irish success if they manage to get it done. But I have no confidence in that, because I think actually Mo'unga has turned into a very level-headed, very well-rounded 10 who acts as a perfect foil for this backline.
I wouldn't put many eggs in that we're going to rattle Mo'unga to death basket. I think he's a pretty good head.
No, that being said, I still think we should try it. It's an avenue that needs to be done.
I think Ireland just need to play really, really well. I think they need to hit their 2016 form. As in, like, I mean, there's my analysis, folks. But that's like, it requires a game of perfection. It requires a game of accuracy, as Joe puts it. So discipline errors to a minimum. I mean, this is the model that Joe Schmidt has set up for this Irish team, is to be as accurate as possible, and they have to execute that at a high level while still being dangerous. Yeah, and that's the challenge they've put before themselves. So things need to run off 10, but the guy Sexton picks has to hit his hole well. Like if Chris Farrell is put through a hole, Ireland have to finish that. And this is the key. They've set up a system where it's all been very slow. It's been very possession based, and I'm not at all convinced that can beat the All Blacks. I think you have to score tries to beat the All Blacks. I think this Ireland team have tries in them. I think their offense, while it has looked a little stuttering and blunt when it gets going, especially entirely with Sexton at 10, can be a very unique and devastating weapon that can suck the life out of teams and surprise teams in curious little ways. I remember that little combination between Rory Best and Cian Healy and Sean O'Brien that Ireland implemented against the All Blacks in 2013. Subtle little plays and variations like that require a high level of execution are how you get through the All Black defence, and then you will tire them out and you will get tries. They're not unscorable against.
You'll also get penalties. They're not, like, when they're defending for more than 10 phases at a time, the All Blacks are quite inclined to give away a penalty just to try and get the pill back. Like they're not adept. They're not like Wales, say, where they'll just enjoy tackling Irishmen all day long, even if you're trying to hold the pill. They want to get the pill back always and often, and they want to strike off turnover ball or off loose kicking plays. watch it there now. So yeah, they'll be looking to do that. That's probably why I think that they'll want to try and get Kane and Sevilla in there to try and generate some of that. But if Ireland can
question
hold it.
Before your prediction, if Ireland, listen, apologies to the Kiwi folks out there, we're Irish and this is the biggest game of every 4 years for Ireland, is the inevitable quarter-final defeat. So we're a little bit biased in our look through.
Definitely.
So sorry to colour it that way. We do our best to avoid it, but sometimes it's just impossible.
Yes.
But if Ireland break the line in the first 5 minutes and get into the 22, are looking dangerous. There's a spoily All Black penalty. Nige gives a penalty and wags his finger but doesn't give a card. Penalty's right in front of the posts. What do you do?
Well, in Chicago mold, you either go to the corner or take the scrum. But in Ireland knockout rugby mode, I think I'm taking 3 points, and I think that's what they're going to do.
I think you're losing the rugby.
Match for Ireland with the 3-pointer. Yeah, it can happen, and
what do you do, Joe?
I know.
I think you go for the try, Joe.
Yeah.
I think you do. I think you have to score tries.
You do.
That's my point. I don't.
Yeah, they did kick 3 of those in that game in Dublin that you cited as not the model. They did exactly that. Was pressure them, get the penalty in a kickable position,
I'm
kick it.
Really convinced it's not the model.
We'll see. There's definitely the jury's still out on that one. From a contest like that.
Do you think it's the model?
Rugby, for which?
Do you think, because the All Blacks going into that game, the signs were all there that they weren't at their attacking pitch. They weren't the week before against England. The signs are the exact opposite this time. We know they're sharp.
Yeah.
We know they'll score tries. It's facile and stupid to think that you're going to win 16-9.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Do you think that we should be kicking threes if we get a bit of momentum early doors? Genuinely.
Probably not. But
no, they should be.
I think we will be.
Then we lose.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I think it is absolutely true. I think we have to go for tries. From minute one. I think this Ireland team tends to be decent at recognising that. And I think they need to. I think Johnny needs to take control and they need to think to themselves, actually, this All Black... if they're watching tape on their 16-9 victory in Dublin this week, I'd be disappointed because it's a different All Black team. Yeah. Mark my words, it's a different All Black team. It is more similar to that team that they played in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, anyway... I'm sorry to be so somber, but I'm preempting this the disappointment. I can't. It's so lack of faithful. They're a great team, Ireland. I love and respect the hell out of them, and I think they have all the potential in the world, which is why I'm so bloody nervous. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm going to stay in keeping with my theme on the podcast and be completely green-eyed and say that Ireland are going to win the game just on the way to their first ever World Cup semi-final and beyond. Yeah. So here's hoping that Joe can guide us to that.
I love you, Joe.
Love you, Joe. Overlooking everything that's going on. But I'm hoping that we win by 3 points.
Yeah, well, I'm
by a 3-pointer.
Declining the opportunity to predict the game.
You're declining the opportunity to predict the game. Yeah. Well, that's all very defeatist. That's terrible. Come on.
Okay, Ireland will win. Chicago style, 45-44.
That'll be some game. Some game for the neutral. I mean, to be honest, I think it will be some game for the neutral. They all have been over the last few years, and regardless of the result, it's always a quality display of rugby. And I suppose may the better team win, but may that team be Ireland on the day, please.
52-44. Sorry, we were 45-44 up, and the All Blacks were going for the win, and then we got an intercept try, and then 52.
You heard it here first, folks, and probably only,
and only indeed. Yeah. Yes.
So come on, Ireland.
Come on, Ireland.
But respect and fear for New Zealand.
Yes, indeed. Listen, we are going to move on to Sunday's games.
Yes.
Sunday's games. The Super Rugby just does not stop. We have the other 2 quarterfinals, which will start in Oita Stadium, just as it did on Saturday.
Under the
roof.
With
an all Six Nations clash under the roof in the sweatbox between Wales and France.
Jaco Piper reffing
the
whistle.
The great Jaco Piper. Hopefully he'll be polite and not do too much wrong. This is a potentially fascinating game. It's
definitely,
it's got that little bit of history with the 2011 semi-final.
Wales are still reeling from that. Certainly Gatland and
I've certainly been reading a little bit about it.
It's come up all right.
It just in general, I think Wales with Gatland will feel that now is the time. I mean, they've been so settled for so long. They've never been better than they are now.
No.
And they're versatile. They have a great squad. It's Alan Jones's last tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of now or never, and they feel they look and feel like they're in the right place
They
mentally and
definitely do.
physically.
Yeah.
And I think game on. I think they're definitely looking as strong favourites in this one.
They definitely are. Like it's hard. Like the French have such wonderful talent and undeniable attacking prowess when they get going. And to be honest, they have found tries against this Wales side. They've definitely asked them different questions to other teams in the Six Nations, particularly as you highlight that outside shoulder of Jonathan Davis, where they flood the channel with 4 or 5 defenders and target him on his outside. Yep. He can be ropey there, and there are tries to be found there.
The outside shoulder of Jonathan Davis, outside of that 13 channel, is Wales's weakest spot. It's actually been exposed a couple of times in recent weeks. The Wallabies got the better of it on a couple of occasions. I think it was Karevi.
Yeah.
Really got
Fiji asked questions there
really
as well.
Fiji asked questions. Josh van der Fleer got to Jonathan Davis's outside shoulder, stepped on the outside. Davis floundered, then stepped back on his inside, and he fell over, and there was a line break in the warm-ups. It's a little weakness there. They have him in their system. They have him a little isolated.
Yeah,
it's because their system is it demands a lot of the players, because it's a heavy blitz that looks to completely shut down all rugby on the inside, and they compete heavily at the breakdown. They commit 1 or 2 guys to a lot of defensive breakdowns.
They do, yeah.
So they actually, it has to give somewhere, and they make Jonathan Davis do a lot of work in that 13 channel, and it's something that the French isolated in the Six Nations this year. They did flood that channel with a load of players, as they like to do. They'd like to put 4 or 5 players into a ridiculously small amount of space and fancy either the fix and give or the offloads and just run off each other, and they fancy themselves to make things happen. Yeah, that is their number one avenue for success in this game.
Keep it alive. Avoid those handsy breakdowns that the Welsh love to make. Instead of 2 seconds, make it 10 seconds by hugging the ball. The French will look to, like Japan, have looked to just keep the ball alive, get the offload going, pop it, keep it going, keep the pace high.
Offloads are huge. If they can limit the number of breakdowns, they can limit Wales' opportunity to spoil the ball and limit the opportunity of their defence to get set, because Wales' defence relies a lot on line speed. You need a breakdown and you need to get set for the line speed to work. So France have to keep the chaos ball going, keep it wide, and get outside that Welsh defence and not allow it to set. That's how they have to attack.
Using players they have like Huget, Raka, Pinot, Medal, Dupont, Gatun, all in the squad, all devastating attacking rugby players. If
they're put in space, they'll kill you.
Exactly. So that's definitely what their model is based on. But it does feel like their winning conditions are fewer and further between than the Welsh ones. Yes. This Wales team have found myriad different ways of winning a rugby game. When games get tight, this year especially, they've displayed enough nous to navigate themselves through that and escape with the win. Whereas France have completely contrasted with that. They have started games wonderfully, looked irresistible for 20-minute periods of games, but then also completely switched off and gone rudderless and allowed teams that they really should have put to bed back into the games. So with a team like Wales, if it gets to 60 minutes and it's within a score either side, I'd be looking at Wales thinking that they're going to win it. The only avenue for French success, I think, is blitzing away into an insurmountable lead.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think if Wales are on top of the game, it'll show on the scoreboard. If it gets to 60 minutes and it's tight, that means things haven't quite gone Wales's way, and then who knows? The French can kick a drop goal to win a game.
They can. We've seen it.
They can certainly do that, and they will be buoyed by being in the game. From Wales's point of view, I mean, we've harped on about them being the most versatile side. They can play in so many different ways. The way that they should actually approach this game, being as versatile as they are, means that they're sort of the exact opposite of Czech's Wallabies, where they don't play to their strengths, they can play to their opponent's weaknesses. Yeah. And what France's weakness has been facing the big Irish teams this year in particular. Toulouse is a very similar team to France in mindset and general play. They had a couple of games in Dublin against Leinster where Leinster just held the ball. Likewise in the Six Nations, France came to Dublin and it was a stuttering Ireland, but they reverted completely to type, held the ball, simple pods, narrow, all the possession in the world. The French hate defending. They hate not having the ball, but they have very little means of winning it back. Yes. If you don't make errors, they don't have jacklers in the team outside of maybe Camille Shah. They don't, their back row doesn't jackal. They're great in the loose with ball in hand, but they don't jackal. So if you can just keep it simple, do those rudimentary fundamental pods, no quick drop goal sets this time round. It was great against Australia, but this time hold the ball, don't kick. Certainly when you're in your own half, bombs to exit are great. Liam Williams and Dan Biggar are lethal in the air.
It's a better matchup than against Medal and whomever they kid out on the wing as well.
Totally.
They have the edge in the high ball area.
That's a perfect way to exit. But when they have the ball in the French half, they shouldn't relinquish it for a while. They should keep going all the way until they're broken and a try is scored. Keeping it narrow, playing just physical, narrow rugby, mixing it up a little bit. No need to play entirely off 9. You don't have to completely copy Ireland, but absolutely keep the ball in hand, play your percentages, no stupid offloads. The goal here is to break them because they hate defending and they can't win the ball back.
And they're probably not as fit because Wales do fancy themselves as one of the fitter sides in World Rugby, particularly with all of that cryo under their belts. They'll be fancying their last 20 minutes potential in this matchup particularly, and especially if they can take that big French pack.
I was impressed by how Wales negotiated the Wallaby game. I was impressed by how they negotiated their way through the very scary Fijian game. But just last weekend I was kind of unimpressed by how they approached the Uruguayan game, which is, you could overlook it. It's the tier 2 side, you assume you were going to get the better of them. But I mean, Georgia had painted the picture of how to beat Uruguay, and Wales kind of went wide, loosey-goosey. And the Uruguayans for large periods of that game, just as they did, tackled them.
Just held their width, numbered up and
made their
hits.
tackles, refused to give an inch. And Wales ended up getting pretty frustrated when the Georgians had shown, actually boys, if we have like little pods of 4 big men running off 9 and crash into them and then recycle the ball and do the same thing all the way up the pitch, they end up breaking because they're too small to stop it. And it was like, it's pure coincidence from the Georgians' point of view, that's just what they do. But it worked so well against the Uruguayans, and Wales didn't isolate that. They went for some more goofy plays. This is a more serious game for Wales than that is.
Of course,
but they need to isolate that. It needs to be less about the quick fire drop goals. It needs to be less about the sort of whipping it wide as they can do and getting Josh Adams on the ball. Because that sort of plays into French hands. That's the kind of game France wants.
They don't really want to instigate a shootout because France can be comfortable in that chaos.
They can.
Certainly more so than if you make it a bludgeoning slow
We have seen
affair.
what Ireland did to them in Dublin. If you're a Welsh fan, you haven't seen that, and that could be some tape to watch and sort of get an idea of what we're talking about, is just keeping it slow. I think they had ridiculous percentage of possession early in that game.
63 or something.
They just broke the French, and then by the time the French get the ball back, they've conceded a try, they've made a million tackles, and then all of a sudden they're not the same attacking presence. They're a little bit stuttering. And I think
the ball gets into certain players' hands and they're a bit sluggish with it.
Ireland have played more or less the same way for a very long time, but as their form has gone up and gone down and gone up again, the one constant that has remained true is that the French don't deal with that game well. And I think that's where Wales should take it.
You're probably right. Tactically, definitely right. You'll be hoping that they do target some of that area. High ball as well is where we feel they have supremacy. It'll be interesting to see if they approach it that way. Because if they do start instigating a very fast and loose, wide, like Wales are good at that. They can play that game as well as they can play many other forms of games. They're good, really good at every way of playing.
But it's just about where are France weak? What makes you most likely to win?
Exactly, and what makes them just very, like, removing their winning conditions one by one is a good starting point for Wales, because Wales on balance are the superior team. They're coming in with more pedigree in terms of their recent form, in terms of their World Cup cycle as well. What's on France's side really is just kind of World Cup history and touches of momentum, and just
that little offensive.
The fact that they have offensive flair does serve them well. The fact that they can find tries, as we said earlier in the podcast, if you can find tries, you can win games.
I don't expect Wales's. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't expect Wales's defence to adjust that much. I expect them to stick with the game plan, which is essentially if they can tackle the French and get them to deck, they'll look to get Tipperick and Alwyn Jones into that breakdown, spoiling it,
as well,
making it slow, making it frustrating, then getting their defence shut and flying out. If France want to set it up with a few forward carries, each one of them is behind the gain line and behind the gain line, to the point where Camille Lopez is like, kick in the air. And that's the kind of that you want out of the French.
You do.
But alternatively, if the French can get the ball away from that contact zone, if they don't get to be able to paint that picture and the game gets a bit chaotic, they might need to adjust. I think that Jonathan Davis is too exposed in their defence, and I think maybe making, like, in multi-phase or in shortened lineouts, getting a back row partner for him, whoever's playing 6, like the likes of Wainwright or something like that, just moving him out defensively. Or whoever it is, Navidi or Wainwright, just somebody, another body there. You can't do it off scrums, obviously, or full lineouts. But off shortened lineouts and in the multi-phase, I think they just need to give him a little more help, because he has an awful lot to do out there, and that is where France will attack them.
For sure. And they may also choose to attack them at scrum time. We don't know yet. We haven't quite seen France's scrum reach its heights, and I was worried when they left.
Scrum are great.
No, I don't particularly either. I think Wales have struggled in terms of getting their guys up to top kind of pace as far as the scrum's concerned. And we haven't really seen what we would associate with France, which is a dominant attacking scrum. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that battle goes.
I also think the Welsh have been the most spoily line-out operators. They have been absolutely hilarious.
They take so many liberties with it. It's so funny.
The referee's like, no step, no step, no step, and then he turns around and
it's like 2 steps.
Step.
Yeah, indeed. And like, Ken Owens at it as well. He steps off the mark a lot of the time.
Shut down that line-out. Yeah. And I tell you what, if they can get some defensive line-out praise off, it could dispirit the French, because there's all these rumours swelling about Guirado and is there a mutiny going on? Do the team really respect Guirado where the coaching staff don't? It puts me in an awkward position, because I'm kind of like, well, Camille Shah's been better than Guirado, so I kind of see the coach's point of view on this.
Yeah, I know.
Don't strip him of the captaincy, but Camille Shah's great. Let's get him in the team.
Sure.
But either way, no matter who they go for at hooker, there is just going to be that little heightened pressure. And if the line-out starts going wrong, it could be something that demoralises them.
And it'll definitely be something that Alan Wynne and Tipperick and the boys
are going to be aware of. It'll be a typical Welsh thing to do. Just that little bit of nous that to a ridiculous degree, to a disproportionate amount.
They're hilarious.
Rattles the French. They know what to do to somehow set the opposition on tilt or into disarray.
Yeah, and French are definitely want to do that. You can get them to them in that way. They're an emotional team, and they play with some great passion and some great pride. But it could be derailing.
It is going to be a good game. It is going to be an emotional game. It's also going to be an emotional game in the stands. I mean, these are two of the great fans in the tournament. I actually think
singing voices, but for both of them.
Usually, I think the Ireland fans are the best at every tournament. I mean, we do love patting ourselves on the back, but I actually think the French fans have been the most noisy and the most colourful in the tournament, right from the opening day, singing La Marseillaise, singing Les Les Bleus. They've been great. They've travelled in some numbers, and they're up against in the stands the beautiful choir singing voice. I suspect the Welsh have fewer people there.
They probably do, yeah.
Fewer fans, but they
actually have proper singing technique, which allows them to carry it across the stadium. It's what's wonderful
and yet
about
there's
it.
something about the Marseillaise. Yeah. So it's that even in the stands, this one is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyable game ahead, in both in the stands and on the field. So yeah, excited, a whole lot of excitement about this one. And who do you think is going to win?
I think Wales are going to win this one, and I think France are going to exit the competition at the quarter-final stage, which
they did 4 years ago.
But I'm not as is the case with all of these quarter-finals. It's possible that I'm wrong, and I can see avenues for both sides winning the games in every single contest, including this last one. We'll pivot on with that to the last of the ones on the Sunday at 11:15 Irish time. Japan v South Africa, a repeat of the Brighton miracle.
Only this time it'll be the Tokyo miracle. It is in Tokyo. Japan are the host side. They are also the side that topped their group. It is Japan versus South Africa,
not the other way around.
As opposed to the other way around. Refereed by Wayne Barnes. That's fine for both, I think.
Probably the form ref in the conference. Do you know what? Do you know who might disadvantage is the Japanese a little bit at breakdown time because he's fastidious for certain things, but then maybe not. I don't know.
Both sides are at it.
Both sides are at it. It's true. But yeah, it's a colourful game, as you said. It's actually 1-1 because we had the Brighton miracle 4 years ago, and then Razzie made sure that his schedule was such that they were touching down early in Japan to take them on before the tournament started, and they got that win back. Very impressive fashion. Managed to hold what has been a near irresistible Japanese offense to a sole try in that game. Wrapped them up very well, prevented the offload, brought them to deck, imposed their physicality. The image is definitely the same for this. That's the picture they'll want to be painting. But they'll be aware that Japan, as far as emotional pitch, will be at a higher level than they were on that day. It's definitely with a weight of expectation now that they've topped their pool, unbeaten coming into this. It's a fantastic tournament from Japan.
It's also shackles loose. No matter what happens, it's been a great performance.
This is
Japan.
True. Yeah. They've already achieved what they set out to achieve in terms of everything. It's gone so well.
Detract a little from their focus, but also take the pressure off them.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be watching, but in a funny kind of a way, there isn't the same pressure on them that there was last week.
Yeah. Or even that we saw a bit of pressure in the kickoff in the Russia game one, where they were the only game. It was the first game. It was their World Cup, and you saw the nerves and you saw it in their play. Probably less so this time, even though it is the biggest game in their history.
When you're David against Goliath, you tend not to have much pressure on you. In terms of how they're going to defend what the Springboks bring, I mean, initially what the Springboks are looking at is quite a bit off faff, quite a bit of forward carries, and that's where they got their initial advantage up against the Japanese pre-tournament. Just Etzebeth around the corner, Vermeulen around the corner, Malcolm Marks around the corner, Stephen Kitsoff around the corner. The whole blooming pack are marauding, savage ball carriers.
Yes.
So it's a difficult picture to start with.
Yeah.
What the Japanese need to do is tackle those guys low, take down the Godzillas around the legs.
Yeah.
Get in, spoil the breakdown, make it slow. Then if you can achieve that, if you can limit the amount of gain line that those big South African forwards are going to get, then all of a sudden the South African offence becomes a little less elite. The distribution game of Willie Leroux has been lacking.
Definitely.
And all of a sudden you can get them into a place where they're going to be kicking the ball a bit.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they want. Now, South Africans do kick well. Pollard will put some bombs up there. There'll be challenges that Japan haven't quite dealt with for the likes of Matsushima and Tupou at fullback.
For sure.
And Fukuoka on the left wing. I mean, like, that's still a scary game. They have to deal with those high balls, and then when they get the ball, all bets are off. But in terms of defence, it's a relatively simple plan. Stop them at source with low chop tackles, get in the breakdown, slow it up, the box will kick, and then deal with the kicks like they haven't been.
Yes. Well, they haven't been dealing with the kicks, but no team has managed to put up a sustained challenge to them in that area. I'm not entirely sure why. Probably a bit of grievance for both Scotland and Ireland are big ones you're thinking of, because like every time they did go to the air, the Japanese did reveal a little bit of an area of weakness under that high ball, and yet no one persisted with it as a tactic.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the Springboks will, because the Springboks, as good as they are in every department, they are vertically challenged in the backfield. They're not actually high ball experts really, but at the same time I feel like you need to challenge the Japanese in that area, and Pollard has an excellent bomb on him.
Pollard
he can get
has
a lot of it.
Cheslin Colby is
he's good. He's very fine in the air.
He's the very top of the top in the air. Like he could beat Liam Williams in the air.
Potential.
No, he could get 50-50 off against Liam Williams. He's that good.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. Maybe he should be fullback.
Maybe he should.
But yeah. So I think the Bombs are one avenue that the Springboks will go to. I think they'll initially look to get that power game going. But a big question for the Boks is, what do they do when Japan has the ball? I think one of the crucial factors in what happened pre-tournament, and one of the most colourful aspects to this, is the Springbok defense being, I think, probably on balance the best defense in the game at the moment.
Seemingly, that outside to in rush with Am pulling the strings basically is awesome.
Am directing everything that goes on, certainly off first and third phase. Like when it comes back against the grain, it can be a little soft, and that's where they rely on the back rowers to get out and make the plays. But when Lekanyo Am is partnered with Delindi, which is the shape that Japan are trying to get around a lot of the time, they become very, very difficult to get around. But Japan, by contrast, have one of the best offenses in the whole world, and
one of the best offensive 13s in Lafayette, as opposed to a defensive 13 in Am, who's an expert at that. We have a wonderful soft touch, lovely creative kicker and passer of a ball, just a pure distributor at 13 in Lafayette, who provides a link with those devastating wingers to their rather remarkable halfback pairing as well in Tamura and Nagari, who's been awesome, and then Tanaka off the bench as well. The pace that their halfbacks put on the ball is excellent, and then the link that Lafayette provides with Tamura.
Lafayette is the key to the wide channels. His getting his hands free is vital, and Lekanyo Am tends to shoot really, really well on guys and give them not even a half a second to make a pass. And then once he sticks the tackle, he wraps his arms and he drives guys back, and he completes tackles so well. So that is a phenomenal battle between an offensive weapon and a defensive genius in Lekanyo Am versus Lafayette. And there was only one winner pre-tournament when they played, and that was Am. And it's actually a little microcosm for the wider picture of the game, because Japan, right back from the PNC this year, looked to put a load of pace on the game. Breakdowns don't suit them. I mean, they treat breakdowns like the meaning of the actual term. The play has broken down. We must start again. Like, they want to keep the ball alive. They want to keep it moving. They want to find the space. And so when the ball is approaching the breakdown, very often they'll just offload it back to 9 and we'll go again. We don't need a breakdown. We'll just go again. Set from start of plays. But one of the things that the Springboks did is, after the contact, they trapped the ball and drove, and they were driving the Japanese way back behind the gain line. They weren't allowing them to get their hands free, and they were shutting down the Japanese offense. Essentially, it's just completely shut down the Japanese offense pre-tournament, which is the first and only time all year that we've seen anything like that happen.
Indeed.
So it'll be curious to see whether they can do it again. The plan is very simple. They are immensely physical, built for rugby type of men, and they're defending with an organisation and a physicality that is daunting for any offence.
Indeed. But that being said, the space that they leave is in that wide tramline channel, and those are the two most devastating weapons Japan have. There's Matsushima and Fukuoka on either side.
Two of the most devastating weapons in the game of rugby.
It's true, yeah. And should they get outside them, I don't see any other outcome than a Japanese try. If they do get outside that channel, which is shut down most of the time, which is why the performance of the likes of Michael Leach, who does tend to linger in those areas, will be key. Because if Lafayette can even get it free enough to get Leach into the game, or if we can opt for Leach to carry into and then go again and isolate, if you can get on the deck and then go, which they did very well against Ireland. They targeted the two centres in one for that try they ended up getting. They committed both Farrell and was it Aki or Ringrose? I think it was Aki that game.
I think it was Gary Ringrose.
Oh no, it was Gary Ringrose and Farrell. They ran betwixt the two of them, and then the next phase found the try. They'll have to do something similar if they can recognise that is such a fulcrum to that line. You may want to try and send a carrier his way first and then isolate.
The thing that the Boks have though is that is actually, like, as well as being a physical presence, he might be the smartest player in the game.
He's up there.
And he's very good at leaving it. Like, he'll shoot out of a line and then he's like, oh, they're going inside. My inside man, Damian Delindi, will take this one. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Like, he won't, like, he knows what space he's covering and he knows what threats he's covering, and then if he's being moved away from that, he will delegate.
Yeah.
So he doesn't like bull rush to a tackle.
No,
because he's a defensive player. He's very much aware of what his role is, and he's aware of what the inside man's role is. So even if he's in the position to get someone and they move to his inside, he's going to be like, Damien,
yes,
smash this man.
That's where the matchup is bad for the Japanese. Yes. The fact that you'll steer clear of only to run into Delindi, who is a brick wall for all intents and purposes. If you're a Japanese runner of a football, that's just a brick wall that you're running into. Indeed, so like it's definitely physically a matchup that's interesting. I'm also wondering, at scrum time they put on a clinic against Ireland, but it was like also like you branded it a drive-by shooting where it was like Cian Healy this, Cian Healy that. And no, we're going to actually target Tyg Furlong instead, which was wonderful.
Just a subtle little illegal play that caught Ireland with the pants down, where they just took a step to the left, hooker and Loosehead's weight on Tyg, and
and conversely, then Cian Healy's weight pretty much out of the scrum,
almost out of the scrum. Going, what's going on in there? And then Tyg's like, oh Jesus, I'm dead. And Ireland with them.
But they did have basically 2 years to prep that game. I wonder, have they something similar for the Springboks? I kind of suspect. No, I suspect that probably this was always the sum of their ambition so far. So this is kind of a let's throw everything at it now.
Yeah.
But they will be looking at tape this week and trying to figure out some weaknesses. I wonder if they can get anything off.
The great thing about Japan's play, like there's no question that the victory against Ireland was a coaching masterclass before it was anything else in my mind. But Japan play such a brand of rugby that even without that behind them, if they're just playing footy, if they're given space, if they're given time, they'll find tries. That said, the matchup for this game isn't great for them. The Springboks were my favourites going into it, are the strongest squad perhaps in the competition. Our giant men defend really, really well, actually have an offence that could be about to take. They're ridiculously physical. Japan, as was pointed out, we were on Modern Box stream this afternoon. We pointed out that Japan have played basically the same team for the whole tournament.
It's very true.
Like some Michael Leach has a lot of minutes under his belt, and you would wonder how they'll fare after 60 minutes of big Springbok.
It's still rude to call them a tier 2 side now that they've qualified. They've ousted Scotland. They've qualified for the home thing. It's kind of becoming rude to persist with that. But one area that you notice the difference between these two teams is the Springboks have rotated their squad. They have a formidable squad that they couldn't conceivably pick 15 players and have it not be a good team from their 31. Whereas Japan are certainly a bit less confident than that.
Here's what happens once the 50-minute mark, if this is a tight game, once the 50-minute mark arrives, on will trot a fresh Beast Mtawira, a fresh Bongi Mbanambi, a fresh Vincent Koch, a fresh Orga Snyman. Who's going to be covering that back row. Oh, just Francois Lowe. Just Francois Lowe. Herschel Yankees, one of the form scrum halves in the world right now, is going to be coming on to dance. And then it gets a little goofy in the back line with Francois Steyn, but perhaps Sabu Nkosi, in the absence of Jesse Creel, who was another absolute weapon.
Yeah.
So that bench is a big difference maker, and that's a worrying sign if you're Japan.
Definitely.
And you're already struggling. And
yes.
you know,
that being said, Japan have been bringing some play, some hustle off the bench themselves. Certainly,
they have.
Loosehead, remind me the
oh
name.
my god!
He's worth looking up because he has been
player.
awesome.
Yeah,
awesome off the bench, and it's like they have got some serious impact. Even Lemeki now, who's
Nakajima, I think.
Is it Nakajima? Nakajima, it is. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just looking up.
Yeah,
sure. He's the blonde replacement Loosehead is just a phenomenal player.
He gets stuck into breakdowns, flies around and makes tackle slots in at first receiver. He's a bit of a weapon off the bench too. So Japan are no mugs in that area. They're definitely an elite team, and they have home advantage. They're conditioned for this, so they will be throwing everything at it. And the Springboks will not be taking them lightly. The Springboks have very real memories of being embarrassed by this fixture before, and they'll want desperately, as Razzie has said, for there to be no sequel to that Brighton miracle movie that we've had. It is I think within their control. I expect that class will tell. Just the fact that we saw that picture beforehand just before the tournament, couple that with the emotional high that Japan will have been at to get up to that level again.
That All Blacks performance against them in the opening day, that like little 10-minute window where they were just unreal, the All Blacks, has sort of fooled a lot of casual fans into dismissing the Springboks as a side that are a lot worse than they actually are. They might be the best rugby team in the world. Like, I certainly think
they're up there.
I think they're up there. I think they're.
They also have, like, if they get through this Japan game, it's either Wales or France, which is a game I'd fancy them winning. Either one.
The 2007 run nicely, doesn't it? Like a tier 2 side that have already achieved greatness in the quarterfinals. They played Fiji in the quarterfinal in 2007. Mm-hmm. They then played Argentina in the semi-final. They would be Wales. It would be another team that is a great side, but not a World Cup semi-final regular.
Yeah.
Negotiated their way through that, and then they were in a final which they duly won.
Yeah.
That it has a familiar looking run to it if you're a Springbok fan.
It does.
The
final, if it's to follow that though, the final would be against New Zealand rather than the England.
Well, no,
side.
England.
Oh, England was there.
It was England in 2007.
It was
after New Zealand went out,
but after they had already whooped England in that pool stage, which is that's where the parallel probably falls down because they lost that game to the All Blacks.
And the tier 2 side topped their group.
Yeah,
that's incredible. But the Springboks are still very, very much in the hunt, and I suspect their physicality, I suspect a wee bit of smarts, and their defence will prove too much for what is a very robust, but still, like, even in their very impressive performances against Ireland and Scotland, they didn't play a side that is playing on the level that the Springboks play, if we're being honest.
That's true. Yeah.
I think they're still want to be, if not shocked, just beaten by that level of rugby.
Hopefully not shocked though, and I think they've shown
I
enough.
suspect not shocked. They're a class team. They will score one or two class tries.
So I expect some hairy moments from the Springboks, but I'd be inclined to agree with you. I'm thinking they will probably get it done, likely by around a 10-point margin.
Yeah, exactly. Just as they did against Fiji, because in that game against Fiji, it was like 20-all after 60 minutes. Because they're a class side, and Japan are a class side. They can get some things off.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think the Boks, with their smarts
and with that bench that we just described as well, it's all, I think, ultimately the intangibles and the tangibles are slightly in the Boks' favour.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. But what a great game! And
absolutely. And
never say never. Japan could win it.
Yeah.
Japan could win it. Every single one of these teams, make no mistake about it, could win these games. The predictions are merely for colour.
They are.
I mean, we're describing basically the way that each side can win the game. France can beat Wales, but Wales, like,
probably more likely to do it.
Are probably more likely, but can definitely beat France. But France can beat Wales. Wales can beat France. Japan can beat South Africa.
They can.
South Africa can definitely beat Japan.
Yeah.
Ireland can beat the All Blacks. The All Blacks can definitely beat Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And England,
Australia, they will beat each other for all time.
It is true. It is true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So these are just 4 awesome games. This is almost the pinnacle of 4 years of great rugby is this quarterfinal weekend where you get 4 games between 8 awesome sides.
Yeah.
It is mouth-watering to say the least, and I am dying of excitement for it. I wish the week would end so I could sit down and watch it.
Yes.
Speaking of, we may well and hopefully will be doing a live stream
on Saturday morning, probably, of the Australia-England fixture is the one that we're targeting at the moment to try and do. So if you want to join us for that, please do. Saturday morning, you'll find us on YouTube chatting rugby while the game's going on and getting ourselves in gear. We'll probably be somewhat of a bag of nerves, a distracted bag of nerves from the fixture coming after it.
We will be compartmentalising those nerves and focusing on the game at hand, because we are rugby fans and it is such a good game between England and Australia. We will, however, be instantly ending the live stream at the end of that. There will be no notion of us live streaming the curse words and excitement and inevitable bitterness that the Ireland fixture.
He's not as optimistic as I am. It'll bring all that stuff if you're a Kiwi. So in Joe we trust.
I hope we win.
And in the theme
pull
of the
something
podcast,
out of the fire.
That's the plan. But in the meantime, I suppose we're going to wrap it up there, folks. Thanks very much. This has been episode number 70. A pleasure to chat to you as always.
Pleasure to get as high as 70.
This is true. Do like, comment, subscribe, bell, all that lovely stuff below.
Especially comments. We love new subs as well. If you're new here, please subscribe, but also give comments, give colour to these comment sections. It's been so cool to see all the fans from all the different countries coming together in our comment section and having cool conversations. I just think it's that's what it's all about.
Definitely.
Keep it respectful, but keep it fun as well.
Definitely true. 100%. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Right, you're up.
I am indeed. Blue ball. Straight into camera.
No,
that was very poor.
And that was poor too. Collective bad effort.
Yeah.
God damn it!